Good morning, everybody. In continuation with the motor system, as we discussed in motor system, it has the bulk, tone, power, coordination, gait, and followed by reflexes. So the second part of motor system is reflexes, which is part of motor system. So as you all know, what is a reflex? It's an involuntary automatic response to a stimulus. It deals with the movements of body and secretion. As you know, it includes bulk, tone, strength, coordination, reflexes, which we'll be dealing in today's class, along with involuntary movements and gait. Bulk will give you an idea about the nutrition, the tone about the state of partial state of contraction to the resistance, and strength is the power along with coordination of the upper and lower limb with involuntary movements, and gait, which was assessed by tandem walking and walking on a straight line, and Romberg's test. So today's class, it's about reflexes. As you all know, the motor system is primarily the brain motor areas of the primary motor cortex. It is the 4, 6, 8, the cortical association area, the subcortical structures like basal ganglia, the brainstem structures, and the upper motor neuron from the motor areas in brain up to the spinal cord, and the lower motor neuron, which is the anterior on the spinal cord up to the effector organ, which can be either the muscle or the gland. So this is the corticospinal tract, how it forms in pyramid and decussates, and the brainstem, and 85% fibers crossing over to the opposite side forming lateral corticospinal tract, and the remaining continues as the medial corticospinal tract ending on the anterior on cells, which is the alpha motor neuron. So effect of upper motor neuron and lower motor neuron, it inhibits the lower motor neuron and degrades its level of activity. The effect of upper motor lesion on element and the reflex action, that is what we'll be dealing. So whenever the upper motor is inhibiting the lower motor and decreases. So effect of element on reflex action. So definition of reflex, it's an immediate involuntary response to a stimulus applied on the body. Anatomically, the components of the reflex arc are the receptor, the afferent neuron, the center, which can be the spinal cord or the brain, the efferent neuron, and the effector organ. So these are the components of reflex arc. So what is the importance of a reflex response? It assesses the integrity of the feedback mechanism required for proper execution of motor activities. So 5 steps in a neural reflex are: whenever there is an arrival of stimulus, the receptor is activated, which in turn activates the sensory neuron. So the afferent goes to the dorsal root ganglia and relayed in the brain by collateral, and along with its synapses with the ventral horn cells, that is the motor neuron, and then it finally relays activates the motor neuron, and thereby there is a response in the effector organ. So this is what is the steps involved in reflex arc. So we'll clinically classify reflexes into the deep tendon reflexes, or the deep reflexes, which includes the jaw jerk or the jaw reflex, biceps jerk, supinated jerk, triceps jerk, knee jerk, and ankle jerk. And the superficial reflexes can be of cranial and spinal origin. The cranial origins are the cordial reflex, the conjunctival, the pupillary or light reflexes. The spinal origin superficial reflexes are abdominal, bulbocavernous, cremastric reflex, anal reflex, plantar, and scapular. And finally, the visceral reflexes, also called as sphincteric reflexes, are swallowing, defecation, and micturition. So you need to understand the neurological circuit for important reflexes. The afferent is trigeminal and the efferent is fifth cranial nerve. For jaw jerk, biceps at C5-6, that's the root value. C6, C7 is the triceps jerk root value. The supinator has a root value of 5-6, the cervical C5-6. The lumbar 2-3-4 are for the knee jerk, and the ankle jerk is S1 and S2. Sacral, the plantar is L5 and S1. We stand on S1 and we sit on S2. And the cremasteric is the lumbar 1 and 2. Finally, the abdominal reflex is T7, thoracic 7 to 12 cranial, the spinal nerves. So what's the difference between deep reflexes and superficial reflexes? The deep reflexes are monosynaptic. The center for integration is the spinal cord, and it's a fast response wherein you can assess the reaction time in deep tendon reflexes. Whereas the superficial reflexes are polysynaptic, the center for integration can be either the spinal cord or the cortex, and it's a slow response. So the difference is fast and slow. And deep tendon reflexes are called as monosynaptic. The superficial which we came across as the withdrawal reflex was the polysynaptic reflex. So as we go on to the deep tendon reflexes, so what is a tendon reflex? So we need to understand the basics. The contraction of the muscle responds to a sudden stretch produced by striking the tendon with the knee hammer. You can see the knee hammer in the right hand is called as tendon reflex. So the contraction of muscle in response to a sudden stretch produced by striking a tendon is called tendon reflex. The tendon reflexes or stretch reflexes because they are elicited by stretching of the muscle. These stretch reflexes are monosynaptic. So what do the tendon reflexes assess? They assess the integrity of afferent and efferent pathways and excitability of anterior horn cells in the spinal segment of the stretched muscle. So the following steps or the following precautions should be observed while eliciting tendon reflexes, which is performed with the knee hammer. The first and foremost thing is the subject should be completely relaxed. Reassure the subject that the knee hammer is not an harmful instrument and will not cause pain while eliciting reflexes. The subject's limbs should be appropriately positioned before striking the tendon. It can be the biceps tendon, the triceps, the supinator, the brachioradialis, the patellar tendon, and the tender Achilles for the ankle jerk. The muscle should be lightly stretched by positioning the limb. The tendon should be stroked briskly by making a sudden jerky movement at the wrist joint. Only the wrist joint is moving. The knee hammer should be loosely held between the thumb and index finger so that it swings freely in an arc, yet is controlled in its direction. So you can control. So it's a controlled movement between the thumb and the index finger. The homologous reflex on the opposite side should always be tested immediately for comparison. If the reflexes are not elicited, the reinforcement technique, which is called as gender 6 manner, should be performed, which increases the gamma afferent activity. So the first reflex, and the reflexes can be graded as exaggerated, normal, or inhibited. Grade 0 is there is no response. Grade 1 is present but diminished as a normal ankle jerk. So grading can be always learned after performing the reflexes, because you want to understand what is grade 1. So grade 1 is present but diminished as a normal ankle jerk. Grade 2 is brisk as a normal knee jerk. Grade 3 is very brisk or hyperactive. Grade 4 is clonus. So the first reflex of deep tendon reflexes are, the first one is biceps jerk. What do we do? Ask the subject to relax, flex the elbow of the subject to a right angle and place his forearm in a semi-pronated position and give support with your hand. And or otherwise you can place it on his abdomen in a flexed semi-pronated position. Place the thumb, that is our thumb, on the biceps tendon. Strike your thumb with the help of a pointed end of the knee hammer so that the biceps tendon stretches by striking the thumb. Observe the contraction of the biceps muscle and the flexion at the elbow. So you can see how the thumb is placed over the biceps tendon and you strike your thumb with the hammer, and thereby you can see the contraction of the biceps muscle and flexion at the elbow. So whatever action is there, bicep, that is the response. So elicit biceps jerk of the other limb and compare. So this is the bicep which has a root value of 5, 6. Over the biceps tendon, place the thumb and strike it with the pointed end once again. Okay. The second one is the triceps jerk. Here what do? We strike the triceps tendon directly with the hammer while holding the patient's arm with your hand. And you need to compare on the other arm. So what do you do here? Flex the subject's arm at the elbow and allow the forearm to rest on his abdomen and support by your hand. Tap the triceps tendon above the olecranon. Take care not to strike the belly of the triceps tendon. Observe the contraction of triceps muscle and extension. The action of triceps is extension. Observe the contraction of triceps muscle and extension. Elicit the triceps reflex of the other side and compare it. So root value of triceps is C6, 7. The patellar reflex or the knee jerk. Here the root value is L234. Patellar is also called as knee jerk. It can be tested with the subject either in supine or in sitting position. What we are doing here is, it is in the sitting position. In sitting position, normally the legs are relaxed and normally they cross the leg over on another, or you can do it in this form also. Ask the subject to sit over the edge of the bed or stool in such a way that his legs dangle freely from the edge, and ask the subject to keep one knee on the other knee. Ask him to relax completely. You can do this also. You can relax completely. Strike the patellar tendon. Observe contraction of quadriceps and extension at knee joint. So this is knee jerk. The one more method which can be done, this is in sitting position. The another one is supine position, where you expose the part up to the upper thigh. Pass your forearm under the knee to be tested and place your hand on the opposite knee. The knee to be tested should rest on the dorsum of your wrist and forearm. Semi-flex the knee and lift your hand slightly so that weight of the knee rests on your hand. Strike the patellar tendon directly with the help of a knee hammer by using the narrow end. Observe the contraction of quadriceps and brief extension at the knee. Elicit the knee jerk of the opposite side and compare. So the ankle jerk, or also called the Achilles, where you strike the Achilles. The ankle jerk can be tested with subject in supine or kneeling down position. What do we do? In supine position, place the lower limb to be examined of the subject on the bed in such a way that it lies everted and slightly flexed. With one hand, slightly dorsiflex the foot so as to stretch the Achilles tendon. With the other hand, strike the tendon on its posterior surface by using the broad end of the knee hammer. Observe for any contraction of the calf muscle and plantar flexion of the foot. Elicit the ankle jerk of the other side and compare. One more method is kneeling down position, where you can ask the subject to kneel on a chair, slightly dorsiflex the foot, strike the Achilles tendon. Observe for contraction of calf muscle and plantar flexion of the foot. So you can either do in this method, kneeling down, or in supine position. We need to strike the Achilles tendon. This is called as the ankle jerk with the root value of S1 and S2. If these maneuvers, the one more is the jaw jerk, where you partially open the mouth and place the finger on the chin, strike the finger with the help of a knee hammer. Observe the immediate closure of the mouth due to contraction of elevators of the jaw. If the reflexes are not performed, so one more jerk was, we had forgotten about the supinator jerk, which is also called as the brachioradialis. Hold the hand of the subject or allow the forearm of the subject to rest on his abdomen. It's like giving a check-in. Strike around 1 to 2 inches above the wrist over the styloid process. Observe the flexion at the elbow and supination of the forearm. This is the supinator jerk with the root value of same as biceps, which is C5, C6. If you are unable to perform the deep tendon reflex, there is a maneuver called as Gendressix maneuver. That is, if the reflexes are not elicited, the reinforcement technique, which is called as Gendressix maneuver, should be performed. This is performed by asking the subject to make voluntary muscular effect by following methods. For upper limb, you ask the subject to clench his teeth or to make a fist in the other hand. If you are testing for the right, left hand can be fisted. For lower limbs, ask the subject to hook the fingers of two hands like this and then pull them apart against one another as hard as possible. This is the Gendressix maneuver. So why do you do this? The importance is, it acts by increasing the excitability of the anterior horn cells and by increasing the sensitivity of the muscle spindle, which is primarily the primary sensory endings, to stretch by increasing the gamma fusi-motor discharge. So which is a reinforcement technique for upper limb reflexes, that is biceps, triceps, supinator. We clench the teeth. For lower limb, you hook the hands together and pull them against one another as hard as possible, as seen in this picture. So this reinforcement technique for deep tendon reflexes only is called as Gendressix maneuver, where the gamma efferent activity is increased, that is the gamma fusi-motor discharge is increased, which is mainly due to the increased excitability of anterior horn cells, which in turn increases the sensitivity of muscle spindle, primary sensory endings. So the next is the superficial reflexes. Why is it called superficial reflexes? They are elicited by stimulating the cutaneous receptors. These are protective reflexes. The stimulation of an area of the skin by scratching results in contraction of certain muscle supplied by the same spinal segment. These reflexes are polysynaptic. The superficial reflexes are of two types, which can be either spinally mediated or cranially mediated. This corneal reflex is a cranially mediated. You need to take a, what do we do here? The cranial reflex is performed by, the corneal reflex test using a clean cotton, wisp of cotton, lightly touch the outer cornea of the each eye on the sclera. Normally you blink. So what do? It is start closing, blinking. Abnormal is you don't blink, which is an eye protection and lubrication. So you need to understand this. So this is corneal reflex, or you can either call the conjunctival reflexes. The next is the plantar reflex, which has a root value of L5S1. Here you ask the subject to lie down on the couch, partially flex the lower limb and rotate it externally. With one, that is left hand, grasp the leg just above the ankle joint. Ask the subject to relax completely. In the other hand, with the help of a pointed object, that can be a pointed metallic portion of a knee hammer or a key, gently scratch the outer edge of the sole of the foot from the heel towards the little toe, which has been marked with dashed lines, and then medially across the metatarsus towards the ball of the great toe. So observe for the plantar response. So we are stroking the lateral side of the foot with the tongue blade or the key. And what is the response? The plantar response may be the flexor plantar or it can be extensor plantar. So what is the normal thing? Normal plantar, as you stroke from the lateral, from the heel towards the metatarsal, the flexor response is characterized by inversion and dorsiflexion of the ankle with flexion of all the toes at metatarsus. This is normally present in healthy subjects, whereas this is Babinski is negative, whereas if it is abnormal, then it is Babinski, it is a positive. The extensor plantar is characterized by dorsiflexion of the great toe, which you can see the upgoing toe, and the abduction of the fanning of the other toes with dorsiflexion of ankle, which is Babinski positive, which is an extensor plantar. It is found in patients with corticospinal tract and is a pathognomonic feature of upper motor neuron paralysis. The abnormal response is called as Babinski sign, as it was first discovered by Babinski. It is also normally seen in newborn, infants and during sleep. So the next is the abdominal reflex. You need to ask the subject to lie down in the supine position, expose the abdomen fully and ask him to relax. We stroke lightly but briskly each side of the abdomen as seen in the photo, above and below the abdomen with a key or a blunted object from outer aspect to midline. You tend to observe the contraction of the abdominal muscles after every stroke as evidenced by deviation of umbilicus. So the upper abdominal is T7 to T9, whereas the lower abdominal is T10 to T12. So the direction of the stroke is being given in the site and direction of stimulation and elicitation of reflex. It is impossible to elicit abdominal reflexes in obese, elderly and anxious patients and in multiparous patients. So the other superficial reflexes are, which we normally don't do, is cremasteric, which is elicited in male patients. He exposed the genital upper part of genitalia and upper thigh, slightly scratch the inner aspect of the upper part of the thigh and Observe the elevation of the testicles on that side and contraction of the dartos muscle as evidenced by increase in wrinkling on the skin or the scrotum. Elicit cremasteric reflex of opposite side. Bulbocavernous is elicited on male patients. Expose the part, the external genital. This is not performed. And the anal reflex and the scapular reflex. All these are superficial reflexes. You expose the anal region, ask the subject to relax completely. Stroke or scratch the skin near the anus. Observe the contraction of anal sphincter. Scapular reflexes, the upper portion of expose the upper portion of the back. Stroke the skin on the interscapular region. Observe the contraction of scapular muscle. So as we told, we need to grade the reflexes. How do you grade them? If it is absent or no response, it is grade 0. Diminished but present as normal ankle jerk, which we did was the tendo achilis. We everted and rotated and stroke and saw the contraction of the calf muscle. Brisk as knee jerk. The patellar tendon was stroke. It is average or normal. Grade 3 is brisker than very brisk, that is hyperactive. And finally we have very brisk and hyperactive, which is clonus. So what's the importance of reflexes? You know the integrity was assessed. Superficial is the protective reflexes, and the deep tendon reflexes where the assess the integrity of afferent and efferent pathways and excitability of anterior cells in the spinal segment of the stretch reflex. In upper motor neuron reflex, there is hyperreflexia, that is due to gamma motor afferent activity. The tendon reflexes are exaggerated and superficial reflexes are absent. Whereas in low motor neuron lesion, you get hyporeflexia, that is tendon reflexes are diminished or absent and the superficial reflexes are absent. So in today's class, we discussed about the part of a motor system, that is reflex. We know the components of reflex are how the neural reflex is elicited, and finally we have what is called as the deep tendon reflex and the superficial reflexes. And one more thing, the sphincteric reflexes are the swallowing. We need to ask history on dysphagia and dysphagia, difficulty in swallowing, or if there is regurgitation of food, or if there is defecation, ask the subject has any problem passing stools, presence of normal or abnormal anorectal sensation, and finally the micturition. The subject should always be asked regarding his bladder habits, whether he has any problem in controlling and initiating micturition or retention of urine, incontinence or urgency of micturition should be noted. So we discussed about the reflexes. So what is the importance of them? Deep tendon reflexes are always monosynaptic, whereas superficial reflexes are polysynaptic and they are protective. So with this, we have come to the end of. I'll be sending the video. Thank you.